Welcome to the Self-Awareness and Self-Compassion Podcast, formerly known as the Full Spectrum Feeling Podcast. I'm your host, Blaise Schwaller, life coach, mom, and former tattoo artist. I help people heal their past, speak their truth, and love the lives that they're living now. Join me here every week for conversations on how to live an imperfect but fully engaged life that embraces all the feels so that you can stretch into your best life while enjoying the you that's here right now. Okay, so 'tis the season of celebration, and I was just talking to a lovely friend that I hadn't spoken to in years, and she commented on the fact that I have a podcast, and I went, oh yes, I have one of those now. Isn't that something? And she was talking about the consistency with which I've shown up and that I've had a different podcast go live every week for a whole year. And I went, yeah, that's the commitment I made to myself this year. But it was kind of random though. And I had all of these like little excuses or just like downplaying what it was. And she's like, no, like that's a huge deal. And how are you celebrating that? And I thought, shit, I'm doing it again. I'm forgetting to celebrate things that are massive because they've become normal. They're just a thing that I do now. And I wonder how different life would be if we all celebrated the sheer amount of crap that we do in a day that's just become normal. Like getting up out of bed, getting dressed, brushing your teeth, washing your face, and actually like starting your car and going to work or just doing anything. That's massive. You didn't have to do it. You've chosen to do it. Sometimes because not choosing to do it would be a worse choice, but still, you do it. You do it consistently, probably almost every day. And there are things that we can choose to do that, they seem exciting at the beginning and they seem like a big deal. And then for whatever reason, they fade into the background and they become not so important. So, for example, deciding to get into podcasting. It was a whim, you guys. On a whim, I decided, hey, wouldn't it be fun to have a podcast? I think I'm going to do that. I want to record at least one a week, every week for a year. And that's like my only thing that I'm going to try and do next year. If I do nothing else, I'll feel like I've been successful in my business, is what I framed it as, if I have done at least that thing, because it gives me an outlet, some visibility, whatever it is. But honestly, it was kind of really just personal nourishment. I mean, if you've listened to this, I've talked a lot. I've talked a lot for many weeks to you. And truly, I find this a great outlet where I feel like I get to talk to my people and share insights. It's made me grow more, but all of that is worth celebrating. And isn't it interesting how quickly we can write off something massive, something that even contributes to other people, because we just don't see it that way and we don't notice. So sometimes it really takes an outsider's perspective to show you how you're showing up in your life and what that actually is. So I would invite everybody listening to take a moment and think about your life and think about what you've been up to. What have you been up to over the last year? Because I can guarantee you it's way more than you think. And I think the first thought that comes into my head anyway is like, oh, just the same old shit. I do the same old thing that I always do. I wake up and I, somehow bumble through the morning. I help the kid go to school. There's some working. There's some house cleaning. I've been able to go for walks. It's just that. And, oh, right. And I have the podcast. Oh, right. And I'm in some of these groups and I talk to people and maybe I've managed to do some other things too. But everybody does that. But let's just take a moment and go like, wait, everybody doesn't do that. You did that. You're doing all of those things. And then think about the impact of what those things are and how they settle in the world. And I think that's something I don't even do that often, is to just sit and go, okay, I'm showing up in my life and I'm doing some stuff. How is that even affecting anything? And usually I think we like to downplay it again, or we talk to ourselves, be humble. You're just living your life. Everybody does this. Like we like to really be a part of something bigger and make ourselves small in some way, not really noticing how important maybe even our small contribution is big, how much it matters. So how does showing up in your life impact the people around you? How would, your family's life be different or your friend's life be different if you weren't there? How would your health be different if you were showing up in a different way? Like if I hadn't been going for these walks this past few months, how would I be feeling? I actually feel pretty good. So maybe it's awesome that I've been doing that. And it didn't just happen. Like I had to make the choice every day to go do that. So maybe I should pat myself on the back for that. What would that be like? To appreciate that I've done something, even if it was simple, even if it seems kind of stupid or inconsequential, to just appreciate that. How many conversations have you had with people that you care about this year? How many people have smiled or laughed with you? What would it be like if you actually could just receive all of that laughter in one tiny moment? All of the hugs that we've wanted to do or finally been able to do. What about the gift of our companionship for those who have been grieving? Who have you said a kind word to? Have you taught someone something? Have you learned something? How many things have you learned? And not just academically, not just like in your job, did you learn something new? Because you probably did. But did you learn something about yourself or about people or about how the world works? Even if it was small. How cool that that happened this year. What have you given? And what have you received? What have you allowed to be possible? Did you watch some really amazing cinema this year? Did you read books? Like, what things are different that only could have happened this year? And when I look at life that way, I think, wow, like there's so much that's happened in just 12 months. So much has happened, and so much happened gradually enough that it's become normal for me now. Like sitting down and recording podcasts is like just something that I do sometimes. How crazy. Like that didn't exist in my life. I didn't have a concept for it. Literally 12 months ago, this wasn't in my mind. I'm recording this for you now. And I hadn't even had the inkling in my brain last year yet to do this. Wow. And here I am, so quick to be like, oh yeah, but it's no big deal. What if it's a big deal? How cool. What maybe outfit do you have that you didn't have last year at this time? How are you carrying yourself that's different? Is there something that you like about yourself that you didn't know until this year? Until someone pointed it out to you? Did you maybe have like a really cool haircut or decide not to cut your hair anymore? Have you tried a new meal that you've never eaten before? Did you discover that you liked or didn't like something? All of that stuff is so cool. And it's like the privilege that we have just in being alive. How freaking awesome. How awesome. I love it. I love it. And I want to share that it's okay to celebrate you. It's okay to celebrate the little things and the big things that you've had to work for or struggled to make happen. I want you to know that it's cool to celebrate that somehow you've made it through, even when it got difficult or not difficult, if you fell off of doing something, but then you returned to it, or maybe you fell off of doing something and you want to return to it. Why not celebrate that you even have that realization? That's a big deal. It's so easy to make everything about us small, to think that it's meaningless, but it's not. And what you do matters. What you do is your choice. You get that honor, you get that privilege every day and every moment. And even I forget, I take that for granted so often, but every moment I get to choose how I show up. Damn, that's awesome. And I can choose to appreciate how I've been, even when it's shitty, to just look at it and go, okay, great. Like, what have I learned from that? There's been so much growth, you guys, that I have gotten this year from allowing myself to be shitty. I think I need to make my next podcast about that, like how much you gain from just allowing yourself to be crap. So let's make a date for next week. We'll talk all about that. But this week, I really want to say that it's good and important to just be grateful and happy and appreciative of small things, of little smiles, little tiny progress, of all of the little tiny shifts that add up to this huge change. And that it's really cool to sit with yourself sometimes and just take an assessment and just wonder, like, what changed? What changed this year? Is it the same or isn't it? And no matter what you discover, like maybe you sit down and you're like, actually, it's mostly the same. I've done mainly the same things. What if that's awesome? So many of you, I think, were listening and were like, oh, what if I did all the same things and it was kind of shit? Like, oh gosh, maybe I should have done more things. What if that's not true? What if doing the things that you love or that you do is perfect and it's great and you found a groove that's like works for you so well that you didn't have to go out and struggle and do stupid things that you didn't want to do? What if that's also awesome? I like thinking those questions. I love asking myself, what's awesome? What am I doing right? What's going great? Because the more that I can focus on that, the more I notice things that are awesome and going great and that I'm doing well. And the more times I get to make choices in which I get to go, which choice would make me feel great or make me feel awesome or make me feel like I'm contributing in a way that feels good to me. I love sharing that with other people and watching them start to make those choices too. It's freaking fantastic. I have to say, this year's growth has been incredible, and I will admit that I am one that likes things to happen quickly. I make my choices pretty quickly, and I tend to just go for it, and I get frustrated when things are going slow, or I perceive that they're going slower than I want because I can see where it's going, and darn it, why isn't it there already? I used to face this in paintings and drawings too, where I'd just be like, oh, okay, I see where I want it to go. And now I'm just frustrated that I have to put in another few hours to finish it. Maybe I'll just go on and start a new one because I'm excited about that. But I'm learning how to spend more time and be in the discomfort of having to finish something and be in the discomfort of things still manifesting, so that I'm not canceling them and I'm not just moving on to the next thing, but I can actually welcome in the changes that I want. And it's a skill. It's something that I've really had to learn, experience for myself, make mistakes with, observe in other people and help them through. Like, it's really helped me. Coaching, getting coached, coaching other people. It's life-changing shit, man. Like, just seeing how much being with other people and holding that space in which you're able to observe what is actually happening in someone else's life, man, it's opened up so much observation for me in my own life about like, whoa, wait, how am I showing up? What am I doing? What does it actually mean? Learning how to ask better questions, I think, has been the story of this year for me. What better questions can I ask myself? And could I ask a client that helps them have that epiphany that makes them go, oh shit, that I hadn't thought of that before, and that changes everything. And I love changing everything. I love changing everything when it's about feeling better, when it's about showing up more powerfully, when it's about letting go of all the shit that we carry around that really is needless. And I'm enjoying, you guys. I'm grateful that I've let go of so much crap that just I don't need. I don't need to carry it around. And for that reason, I guess, perhaps my new normal has become calm and chill enough that I can look at something as huge as like a weekly, like 52-week plus commitment of showing up and just going, well, that's just who I am. That's how I show up now. But that's a big deal. And you know what? I'm going to say it, Blaze. I appreciate you. I appreciate myself for having done that. That was a big deal. And the you last year couldn't have done it, but you this year, that's just who you are. And that's fucking awesome. And I want to be able to say that to all of you listening, like whatever it is that you've become this year, that's new and wild and awesome, that it's just who you are now, that seemed so difficult that you couldn't have been last year or 5 years ago. Rock the fuck on. Congratulations. Enjoy it. Because you've worked hard. You've become in a new way. And that's so cool. And it takes presence, and it takes time, and it takes mistakes and all kinds of stuff to get there. And it definitely deserves acknowledgement. So here I am, acknowledging you, acknowledging myself, all of the growth that this year has brought. And you know what? I wish all of us even more awesomeness. Because honestly, there can't be enough. There's always more awesomeness. Let's have it all. I want it all. So my intention for you, me, everyone in the world is that we're able to let in more good, be more aware of how much we're growing, how much we're offering the world, and how much we're able to receive, that we become better receivers of all of the good in our lives and present in it, that we're able to acknowledge that we are receiving it. Like, I think of this podcast not so much as something that I've created and put out there, as something that I've been able to be received. I can receive myself in this space and create this space. And it's an interesting feeling. What is it like to show up and want to give a lot, but to also receive that you're providing that? To know that it's being received somehow. Like, I never know how this is going to be received. At the time that I'm recording this, I think maybe 4 people a week listen to some of my podcasts, maybe 7. We'll be generous and like maybe 10. That'd be cool. But in general, I have been making this knowing that more people someday will listen to it, but really it's me being in this space. It's me being able to gift myself with my own time and presence, that I made a commitment to do something, that I've carved time out of my life. I've learned how to do new skills in order to create it. It hasn't been easy. Sometimes it has, but most of the time, let's be honest, like, who has extra hours in their lives for just bullshit? Like, we don't. Nobody has time for bullshit. So obviously this was important to me, and I wanted to give it. I wanted to give it out to the world, and I've done so, whether it gets taken up or not. That's kind of cool, actually. And I appreciate that, even though, you know, in my heart of hearts, I wanted it to be amazing and received by everybody all at once. It's okay that it hasn't been. And I want to offer that as well. Like, if you've created something and you've put it out there and you've wanted it to just be amazing and just touch the lives of millions of people, or thousands, or even hundreds, which seems so huge right now, and it hasn't, don't let that make you feel like you've fallen short. I think that's the gift that I've gotten in this year, is that things happen in their own time. It doesn't happen in the timeline that I want. It happens in the timeline that's happening. What if I can show up and just know that it's being received as it's meant to and as it will be, and it's not up to me, and it's not my stuff? Sometimes I'm more easy with that than other times, but it's a thought that I will always return to, because there's peace in that, to say sometimes we're making things because the making of it is important for us, for others, for whatever reason. Like, we just know it's important. I hope that you're able to do some important things for yourself and for others this year. That feels good. So on that note, have yourselves a fabulous week. I hope that you go into like this time of dreaming, where you dream up what's possible that you're going to work towards in the coming year. I feel like the winter is a great dream time for coming up with new ideas. And I can't wait to see what everyone manifests and makes happen and makes their new normal over the coming year. Have a fabulous night, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with someone you love, and leave us a review. You can learn more and get some self-compassion tips and tricks by visiting coachwithblaze.com, where you can sign up to get my free booklet on overcoming anxiety, overwhelm, exhaustion, and burnout. I'm sending you so much appreciation and love, and I'll see you next time.